Hey everybody, it's Jordan with Warpfire Minis, and we finally made it to round 5 of the LVO recap. We pair into Slaves to Darkness. And a quick shout out this guy, his name was Martin Orlando, and he had the most beautiful army I've ever seen, so go check him out, it was just incredible. For this one he's got Be'lakor, Varanguard, and Chosen, so it's going to be tough, and it ends up being a tight one all the way through, so here we go. So round 5, Slaves to Darkness. I'll start you guys out by walking you through his list. We had 3 Varanguard. Right behind those guys, another pack of 6 Varanguard. Over here, he had one group of Cypher Lords, and then one group of the Unmade. I just don't have those models, but those are just cultists. 10 Chosen with the Mark of Nurgle and the Nurgle banner. Be'lakor. And then he had 2 little foot heroes. One is a Sorcerer Lord, one is an Exalted hero with an Arcane Tome. And that was his grand strategy, was spellcasting Savant to keep that one Exalted hero alive. So that's one thing I'll be kind of gunning for throughout the game, is if I can get to that guy somehow with spells or charges. That's a grand strategy that I could potentially prevent. Then just overall power threats in his list, like Be'lakor is going to shut one of my things down. 10 Chosen, kill anything I have. 3 Varanguard, usually kill anything I have. 6 Varanguard, absolutely kill anything I have. And he's Knights of the Empty Throne, which means those Varanguard units can all run and charge. So I have to be very, very careful with how I position things around those. The mission itself was Geomantic Pulse, and so we deployed, he outdropped me as always, and he made me go first, so we'll dive right into it. So start of the turn, first thing I gotta do is pick out my battle tactic. We just go with Magical Dominance, since all my wizards are outside of 30, so they can't be unbound. And we start casting spells. We go for Dreaded Death Frenzy, we get it off onto Warbringer and the Hell Pit. The purple Grey Seer back here casts Death Frenzy off onto these Plague Censer Bears. Then we just get a Mystic Shield on the Warbringer as well, and do our prayers to buff up the PCBs. So they got the extra attack, then Bless to give them a 6-up ward. And then at the end we cast Skitterleap over here, and we Skitterleap Screech to shoot him all the way over here. So I've got one of my threats on this side of the board, hopefully on the Pulse if I get the priority. If not, he's positioned on a Gnaw Hole to be able to jump back around wherever I need him. In this setup, the Screech's spell is very powerful, but into the Varanguard, they have a 4-up ward against mortals. So I'm putting him on this side of the board to be closer to those Chosen, because that's a spell that can take a good chunk of those guys out, where it's not going to do much into the Varanguard. From there, we jump into movement. First thing we do is we run these Clan Rats, and I know those I really don't want to mess with, so I'm going to build me out a little screen this way so they can't just come over here and get towards Screech. And so we run the Clan Rats up this way. Then we run this Hell Pit. We got a pretty good run roll with the Clan Rats that we can use for everybody. So we run him just to put more bodies onto the objective. And again, we're staying all the way back on these objectives. Like I could have gone up to here, but I don't want anything to do with those Chosen, so we're trying to stay as far back from them as we can. Warbringer, we just scooted him up this way, and you'll see why later on. This Grey Seer runs over here just to get by his bodyguard unit. Then we're just going to push things up just a little bit over here to get a little bit closer to these objectives if the Pulse goes this way. So first up, we just move the Clan Rats up a little bit. Then the Plague Censer Bears, we move them up. And the Varanguard, they can fight twice once per battle, but only if they're within 3 inches of another unit. So he's going to want to do that. I've got Death Frenzy on these guys, so I actually want to fight the Varanguard. So I move these guys up to be within 3 inches, so it would proc his ability. But I'm going to be outside of 2 inches where he can't hit them on the first attack. So he's going to have to come in, clear these Clan Rats. I'm going to get the opportunity to fight, hit him. Then if he does kill me back with that second fight, I'll be able to Death Frenzy and fight him again. So it would be a good trade for me. So just being careful with your measurements and stuff like this, I will tell my opponent I'm setting up to be within 3 and outside of 2 so that they know my intent and we don't have any confusion later on. We move a Grey Seer over here, and the little foot here is just scoot up just a little bit. Then we go to end of movement, and to prevent him, I don't want him just to like hit here in a spot where I'm not within 3 either way. And I also need to get this Warbringer behind this screen anyways. So I can't go into this Gnaw Hole and pop out of the same Gnaw Hole just in one move, but each Gnaw Hole can be activated once. So what we do is we jump him into this Gnaw Hole. He pops out over here. Then he's going to activate this Gnaw Hole, jump into it in order to pop back out on this side. And again, we're setting him up to be within 3 of the front, outside of 2, so he doesn't take that first hit. Then if they do choose to fight here, he's going to be able to hit them back. But that ends up being the turn. We get our tactic for casting a spell. We hold 1 objective. This mission, the max you can score is 3 turn 1, so 3 points. So going into Slaves of Darkness, bottom of 1. The way that I positioned myself here and here, I didn't get within 30 inches of his guys. And again, it's just the Varanguard, they're so fast. If I had pushed up farther to get it, then I'm just guaranteeing that 2 units are going to be able to crash into me turn 1. And I can't have that happen. So we stayed further back than I wanted. So his turn 1 tactic is also going to be Magical Dominance, and he ends up getting it off. For spells, he casts a Mystic Shield onto the 6 Varanguard. Then he casts Demonic Power onto the squad of 3 Varanguard, which gives them +1 to hit, +1 to wound. Then he also gets the 3d6 charge spell off onto the squad of 3 Varanguard as well. And from there, we jump into movement. So first up, it's going to be the squad of 3 Varanguard. He uses a command point to auto-run them 6. So these guys can move 16. And so with a 16-inch move and a 3d6 charge, like, as you can see, they're coming in. There's nothing I can do about it. And so that's why we've got things built up this way. For the rest of it, he moves the 6 Varanguard down just a little bit. The 2 little foot heroes just follow suit up behind the Varanguard. Then over on this side, the cultist units just move up towards the objectives. 10 Chosen just move up behind. And then Bellicor just moves up in the middle. All right, from there we go into charges. The 3 Varanguard come in. He decides he does not want to fight the Warbringer, so he sends them over here into the PCBs. Then for actual combats, the 3 Varanguard, they're +1 to hit, +1 to wound. On the charge, boom, they kill all 20 of the clan rats in 1 combat. Which is actually good news for me, because now these PCBs pile in. We fight, and we kill 2 of his Varanguard, which rules. Then since he only has 1 Varanguard left, he decides to go ahead and proc that second fight. Fights in and kills 3 Plague Sensor Bears, but in return they Death Frenzy and also kill his Varanguard. For me, I auto-pass the Bravery, and that's the turn. He got his battle tactic. He controls the 1 objective, so we're tied up 3-3 going into a big priority roll. So we do the priority roll, and I end up winning the priority. So I have the power in my hands now. I can either choose the pulse, or I can take the turn. And the way things were laid out, I decided to give him the turn. And the reasons were, these Chosen were actually a little bit further back. He was in a position where he wasn't going to be able to get enough bodies on this objective to take it from me this turn. So if I can make that one the pulse, and he can't take it, that's going to put me up a couple points potentially. And also, I got Death Frenzy on the PCB still. I have Death Frenzy on the Warbringer, so if he comes down here, I'm going to be able to get him. He's got his buff spells. I'm going to be in range to unbind this turn. And if I do take the turn, the PCBs aren't close enough to be able to reliably get into those Varanguard. Same idea for the Warbringer. And Screech and the Hellpit, like, they could go up here and hit one of these units, but I'm not going to be able to kill any of his good stuff. And if I take the turn, it's going to open me up to where he could potentially double me back. And in that situation, if he doubled me back, I would just insta-lose. There's no hope. So since I've got my Death Frenzy up, I got a potential where I can go up a couple points. It's going to hurt, but we give him the turn. So we'll go into Slaves, top of 2. All right, so start a hero phase stuff. I end up Finest Houring the Warbringer. Just in my mind, he's probably going to send these guys down here, try and kill 2 of my big threats this turn. If he does, the +1 to wound on the Death Frenzy will help me clap him back. And then he starts casting his spells. Notably, he does not get Demonic Power off. And this is a thing where I've got the Acolyte Battalion to get an extra Primal dice. And so another part of giving him the turn was I will likely have the Primal advantage, an extra Primal dice than he does. So for his good buff spells, I'll have a pretty good chance at unbinding them. Like, I already get +1 for my Gnawhole. Add an extra d6 to that, and we're doing pretty good. So we stop that one and the 3d6 charge. He ends up getting that Mystic Shield off. I think he puts it onto the Chosen. And then we just jump into movement. And then also I spend a command point to rally back these PCBs, and I do get 1 guy back. And the idea here was I was hoping to get 1 or 2, just to make this a little bit more awkward for those Varanguard to be able to come in and hit me. And so jumping into movement, they come down. The Unmade over here, they just moved down to make a little screen just to make it harder for these guys to get over this way. And that was where he knew he didn't have enough bodies to take the objective, but he's still putting 1 or 2 on to make it to where if I leave that objective, he'll take it away from me. So I'm going to have to take one of these guys and put it there. So it's basically taking them out of the game for a turn. It's a good move. Over here, these guys can move down to take this objective away from me, so they do. The Chosen just move up behind those guys, using them as a screen. Big Bellicor flies over this way, just getting onto this objective since the Varanguard are going to charge off of it. And the two little foot heroes just follow up behind him. Then we go into the charge phase. He starts with the Varanguard, and they roll pretty low. And so he goes for the reroll and rolls low again. And it's a situation where he may only be able to get one or two of the Varanguard into the Warbringer. And so he decides to just send them all into the PCBs this way instead. And that'll keep him outside of 3 of the Warbringer where he's not having to fight both. Then over to combat, they pile in, just to get the rest of the guys in here. And they fight, and they kill all of the Plague Sensor Bearers. But we got our Death Frenzy up. That's part of why we gave away the turn. So they all get to fight back. And we end up killing 3 of the Varanguard, which is huge. And so then these guys are outside of 3, so they can't double fight. And that ends up being the turn. There's no other combats. So he doesn't take the pulse. He just gets the one next to the pulse. Scores 1 for holding an objective period. Plus his battle tactic. I forget which one it was, but he scored his tactic. So he got 4 points this turn. But the big one was being able to prevent him from taking the pulse. It's going to give me a chance to come right back at him. So we're moving into bottom of 2. First up, I got to choose a battle tactic. I know he's most likely going to use Bellicor to shut down the Warbringer, so I don't just kill these Varanguard. So I got to choose a tactic that does not involve him, otherwise I may fail it. So we're just going to play it safe and go with Invaders. I just got to walk my guys across the line. I would have liked to do Led into the Maelstrom while I still have Battleline alive, but it's not necessarily guaranteed that I'm going to end in combat. I'd like to kill both of those units, and if I do, I don't want anything to be in combat with the Chosen. And then him potentially getting locked down just makes it a risk. So we go with Invaders. Then it goes to go into my spellcasting. He does use Bellicor and Dark Masters the Warbringer. So he rolls the dice, and I don't get to cast spells with the Warbringer. So no Death Frenzy over here. We go for a Dreaded 13th on Screech, and we don't get that off. We get a Mystic Shield on him, and that ends up being pretty much the only spell that's impactful. We went for a Wither over here on these Cultists, didn't get it either. Then down on this side with the little foot heroes, we chant our prayers, hoping to get like a bubonic or something and try and get these guys. We do trigger it, but we only do 4 mortal wounds on 2d6, and then he shrugs half of them, so we do basically nothing. Over here, I try to cast Blizzard with this one and don't get it off. Again, unlikely to happen, but they're there, they're in a position, might as well try. And then from there, we're jumping into movement. Bellicor gets to do the Dark Master. The Warbringer is not allowed to move. Over here, the foot heroes, that's my grand strategy to keep these guys alive. So right now they're in the danger zone. So we end up just start running these guys away. We're going to try and spread them out where he can't kill multiples of them in the same turn. So we run this little Plague Priest over this way. We run this Grace here over here towards the Clan Rats. And then this guy, he just tucks back down here, back by this Gnawhole. So the Clan Rats end up over here. We left a little tail just to keep these Graciers in range of the Shrug, while also opening up a little lane here for the Hell Pit, and then maybe some PCBs later on. We scoot this Gracier up, move the Hell Pit over. Screech moves up over here towards the Unmade. And then that takes us to the end of movement. And over here, I knew that he was going to shut me down with Bellicor. The Warbringer is just the best target for that. And so I purposely left him within 6 inches of the Gnawhole through teleporting around before, because even though he is not allowed to move, the War Scroll ability of the Gnawhole is what lets you teleport. So instead of leaving him here to die, because like if he gets the priority, these guys just boom, crush him, and I don't have Death Frenzy off on him. So instead we're going to teleport him all the way over to this side of the board to get extra bodies on the objective, as well as keeping him safe behind those screens for next turn. And now that we're doing that, the pulse is about to move to this objective next turn. So I'm going to deep strike in the PCBs. We want to get as many bodies on that thing as we can to try and keep him from taking it from us. So then we go to the charge phase. We try and charge the drill. I always set it up within 12 so we can fish for that charge roll with it first. It fails. We re-roll it. We hit the 9, so everybody's going to make it in. We do go ahead and send in the drill in this instance, just because why not? Screech goes in. The PCBs go in. The Hell Pit goes in as well. Then we go into the combat phase. I stomp these guys over here, hit a roar here, and we fight with the Hell Pit first. And that's because I want to do, whenever I pile in a unit, I can pile in the rest of my army. So I pile him in to give me an extra 3 inches of movement over here on the PCBs. Just again, creeping that way towards the objective. Screech in the drill, both do the same thing just to get a little bit extra movement. And the Hell Pit fights and kills all these guys. Goes over to his combat. The Unmade fight into Screech, don't do any damage. Screech fights back and kills them. And then I've got a choice. I've got the PCBs. Since they charge, they're still eligible to pile in again. I could push them into the Chosen, but since we didn't get Death Frenzy off this turn, it's not the move. I would kill maybe one Chosen. He would kill a bunch of PCBs. So we just stay put. We call that a turn. We get the Pulse. We get the one next to the Pulse. We get one objective plus our tactics, so 6 points, score and max. Feeling good. If we can get a priority roll here, we're in a good position where Screech can go into his damage stance, hit into those Chosen, Help Hit's right there, PCBs are right there. We'll be on the Pulse. We might even send the PCBs into Be'lakor, and like things are looking pretty good. He's already used Dark Master, so he can't lock another piece down. But we do the priority roll, and Slaves of Darkness takes the prio, and he takes the turn. So going into top of 3 for Slaves, the Pulse is now here, and he casts some spells. None of them are super impactful. I think he goes for an Enfeeble Foe on the Help Hit, gets it, but then I get the 4-up Spell Ignore. So we'll just jump straight into movement. The Varanguard, they kick over this way. He's going to try and kill all the clan rats to take away my objective control. The Chosen just stay where they are, because they're already close enough to the PCBs to make a charge. He doesn't want to proc any redeploys. Be'lakor moves up just to get in the way of the objective, and the 2 little foot heroes follow suit. Just, again, setting up for the next turns being on objectives. Go to the charge phase, and the Varanguard charge in. And the Chosen also charge in, making sure they stay outside of 3 of the Help. Go to combats here. He fights with the Chosen first, as the PCBs can do damage, the clan rats cannot. So, fights with the Chosen, they do 1,000,000 damage and blow up all the Plague Sensor Bearers. Clan rats fight at the Varanguard, do maybe 1 damage. Then the Varanguard fight and kill all the clan rats. Alright, then that there ends up being the turn. I will mention, Screech was in his -1 to hit stance. He was Mystic Shielded for +1, and I also Finest Hour to be +2 to save. So that's why he sent the Chosen down here into the PCBs and didn't try to make a play on Screech. And again, like, the Pulse is going to continue to move down, so he wants to bring them down with him. But he's going to control the Pulse, the one next to the Pulse, got his battle tactic, 6 points. Managed to deny him from controlling this one, which is good. And we're going into Skaven, bottom of 3. Alright, this turn my tactic's going to be Surround and Destroy. I got a Plague Priest here who can just run up. This Grace here is going to go over to the Gnawhole and pop out over there, score our tactic. For Screech this turn, since we're going to probably send him in, we go into our Rend 3 damage 3 stance on the Glaive. And then we start casting spells. We get Flaming Weapon off, but we don't get Dreaded Death Frenzy off. Down here we go for a Blizzard, and we get it. And we do 15 mortal wounds into the Chosen. That's a pretty big swing right there. Screech goes for his Dreaded 13th and doesn't get it. And then down here we go for a Wither onto the Varanguard and don't get that either. Then we also go for a Skitter Leap from this guy, and we Skitter Leap Screech. This turn I've got the Help Hit in range of these guys. The Warbringer can likely make it over too. So I don't need all 3 of them to deal with that threat. So we're going to Skitter Leap Screech to go for the big play. And so we pop him out way over here, outside of 9 of that general. And again, that's his grand strategy. So if Screech can hit this charge, it's just 1 little foot hero. We'll kill that guy, and that's going to be a big swing our way. So from there, we're going to jump into movement. We start out, we run this guy all the way up here for our tactic. Move the Gracier down here for the tactic. Again, just have to Gnawhole over there to get it. This Gracier, we end up taking him off the objective down this way. Setting up to be within 12 of Be'lakor to go for a Blizzard if I do get the turn. Help It scoots over here outside of 3 of these Varanguard. And then the Warbringer moves over as well to get ready to charge it into these Chosen. We do our couple little tail attacks, and then it's time for the charge. We go for the drill, and boom, we get the 9. He's in. Which also means Screech is in. And that was the big play we were hoping for. So Help It charges in this way, staying outside of 3 of the Varanguard. Warbringer also charges in. We're going to double make sure we kill these Chosen. Then for Monstrous Rampages, we roar the Chosen. They're already Mystic Shielded, so they're on a 2-up. I don't want them to go to a 1-up. And then Screechy goes for a Stomp on the General just to do some chip damage, and we don't get it. Combat-wise, we go with the Warbringer first because the Chosen can kill us, and he picks these guys up. Then he fights with his little foot hero into Screech. Doesn't hurt him. Screech goes, we pop his command to be +1 to hit, +1 to wound. We dump everything into this little foot hero. He's on a 3-up. He all at defense to go down to a 2-up, but we're in our Rend 3 damage 3 stance. We got 6 attacks with that one that are 3 damage, 8 attacks with the Plague Reapers. We dump everything into this guy, and we do no damage. Somehow he just rolled great on his saves. Then on the Eye of the Gods table, he got a 5-up ward and just shrugged all the wounds that he did take. So big bummer there. Like I was really, really counting on that to happen. Then over here, these Varanguard were a little bit further back. The Hell Pit, I piled him in, just trying to get him closer to the objective and stuff, but I wasn't able to get within 3 of the Varanguard or Be'lakor. So then for scoring, I get the Pulse. I've got the one next to the Pulse. And then my battle tactic, I failed. Got this Gracier down here, and I just needed to gnaw-hole him over here, and in a rush, I just forgot to do it. And in these kind of circumstances, sometimes your opponent will give that to you, but this is LVO, this is round 5, like both of us want to be 4-1, so we didn't get our tactic here, so I'm only going to score 4 points. We roll off for priority, and Slaves of Darkness gets it. We're going into top of 4. To start things off, he ends up rallying back a Varanguard. Bummer. He casts some spells, but nothing super impactful, so we'll just skip over to movement. These guys were a little bit closer. He retreated over to touch this objective, because now the Pulse is here, so he's trying to score the one adjacent to it. This guy retreats back out onto the objective, and then the Varanguard make a move up here towards Screech. Charge phase, he sends Be'lakor into the Hell Pit, and then the Varanguard, they charge Screech. Monstrous Rampage, I roar him, Titanic Duel here. He Titanic Duels the Hell Pit. I do get the roar off, which was big, because now when they attacked me, Screech had Mystic Shield previously. He all-out defenses. The Varanguard attack, and they do like 5 or 6 damage. Screech takes it like a champ. That's huge. So next up, I fight with the Hell Pit. I do 6 or 7 damage to Be'lakor, which is great. He hits me back and does 6 or 7 to the Hell Pit. I heal my hero phase and stuff, so that's a pretty good trade. I'll take that. The Hell Pit did pile down a little bit, just so next turn I could pile in, potentially get on the objective, which also let Screech pile in a little bit. Then I didn't have quite enough piling in to get into this guy with the glaive, and the Varanguard still haven't fought twice yet. So I need to get Screech out of there. And so this is a good opportunity. We retreat him out over to this objective. And so now he's not going to take this one that's adjacent. All right, then it goes over to my turn. For bottom of 4, I'm out of tactics, like good ones. With all my battle line dead, like I can't charge a hero in a battle line. Flee had not changed yet, so I had to retreat a hero in a battle line. So all I had was Magical Mayhem. Be'lakor had taken a few wounds from the Hell Pit earlier. So just fishing for a Blizzard, try and get Be'lakor off the board. We go for it and we don't get it. But the good news is, Screech over here, we cast the dreaded 13th onto the General. And this time we roll 13 dice, 4-ups or mortal wounds, and we do 10. He rolls his wards and dies. We get Death Frenzy off this turn, and then just hopping into movement. We retreat out the Hell Pit just to make room for the Warbringer. It's going to get weird. I need the Warbringer to be on this objective. So it's going to get weird with that terrain piece being able to fit him. And the Warbringer, like, into Be'lakor, he saves on 4-ups Ethereal, so it's always a risk. But if I can get him, and Screech on, and maybe a Gracier, like, maybe if Be'lakor doesn't die, I can still take this objective, but I really need to take the Pulse this turn. So we move the Warbringer down, get outside of 3. Then over here with the foot heroes, we just start teleporting them around. We're just spreading out for my grand strat. This Gracier, we run him, get him up onto this objective. Drill scoots down 2 just to be an extra body. And we go for our charges. And the Warbringer makes it in. Screech charges down here into this little hero. And with the Varanguard, Screech just can't kill them all. I need to fight into Be'lakor first, so that the Warbringer doesn't die. And the Varanguard also still have their double fight. So, like, I would love to kill those, but right now I just can't. So I've got to take the safe bet. Drill charges in as well. We Titanic Duel into Be'lakor, because Roar doesn't help. He can't all-out defense anyways. So we swing all of our attacks, and we kill him. And that was big, just the Hell Pit had done that damage to him previously. And that's what made that play, like, still risky, but something that should happen. Where if he was full health, like, that's something, like, I could do it, but would be super, super risky. But that ends up being the turn. I do take the Pulse. These count as 2 apiece. I've got 12 on now. Screech killed this little foot wizard. Priority roll into 5. Roll it off. Slaves of Darkness wins the priority again. And to make a long story short, he's got a battle tactic where he has to, like, take an objective from me. So he runs these guys way over here. He charges and piles into these clan rats. In combat, kills them, takes the objective. He scores just the Pulse and his battle tactic. So then it goes into bottom of 5 for Skaven. I take a second, like you always want to do this, to figure out what the scoring is actually going to be. And so I figure out that since I'm going to score my grand strat, and now that his general is dead, he's not going to. All I need to do is just take the pulse. And so I end up just running this little guy over here. I end up running the Warbringer on. Gives me enough bodies to take the pulse. And so between the pulse, the objective adjacent, holding 1, that's still 4 points. And throughout the game where I had denied him from controlling the pulse turn 2, then denying him the adjacent 1 a couple times, that's what kept me in the game, even though I failed 3 of my battle tactics. And so with that, I ended up winning the game by 2 points. We did it, we're 4-1. But this is definitely one, it could have swung either way. Like, there were a couple big swings, like getting the Blizzard off, killing Be'lakor. Just a really good game overall. But 4-1, heck yeah. And so that's it, we did it. We got the 4-1. Starting out round 1 with a loss, this is the best I could do. So I was absolutely pumped at the end of the event. I think overall I ended up placing 52nd, which with a 4-1, sometimes you want that number to be higher, but LVO, there's just so many people. My one true goal, I was hoping to get best Skaven at the event, but one of the Bell lists just edged me out points-wise. We both went 4-1. It's going to be a few months before I make it to my next event, but we do have our own GT coming up, May 11th and 12th, the Sigmar Summit. We're going to have a good number of people. We got the Season of War guys are flying down from Canada to come play. And it's also going to be a golden ticket event. So there's a link down in the description where you can buy tickets to that one. And then for the next batch of videos, we're kicking off our Warpfire challenge for 2024. We'll put a video up about that soon, but it's just where customers can challenge me, they can win prizes. So we'll be covering those games here in the meantime. And if you ever need any models, check us out at warpfireminis.com. Thank you.